Okay, so welcome to the start of the review of the unit. To begin, we're going to start with a deep dive of the unit. Deep dive means I'm going to explain the whole concept at its hardest level. So before we begin, in general, there are these basic steps anytime you have to solve for x. And it's not just solving for x because it doesn't have to just be x. Anytime you have to solve for anything, solving for any variable. Remember, variable just means letter or thing we don't know. So to figure out any variable, these are the steps. You always start with distributing into the parentheses if you have them. You need to combine like terms if they're on the same side of the equal sign. And that's only a step you have if you have like terms to combine. And then the last step is where you follow backwards order of operations, which I'm using gems in this class in order to isolate the variable. Remember, isolate just means get alone or solve for. So there's always going to be a question on the test that lets you meet this expectation at an exceedings level. You can always meet your expectation on a competency, and that will be fine. That's all you need to do is meet it. However, there's always this chance to prove that you're exceeding in this one. So for solving for x, the way to become exceedings is you need to be able to find the mistake in someone else's work and fix it. So this is kind of hard sometimes because the tests don't often tell you how they got from one step to the next one. So you have to figure it out by looking at it. So how I would go about this is I would be like, okay, well, what changed? This minus 40 at the end did not change. This 3w did not change. However, this part right here, if you look, it changed. The 10w didn't, that stayed the same. So it's just about this part right here. So what happened? Well, remember, step 1 is always to distribute into parentheses. Distribute into parentheses, and distribute means multiply. So if I were to take this negative 4 that's in front of the parentheses and multiply it to the w, I end up with negative 4w. So that part's right at least. What about the next part? Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. That's the next thing they wrote. So that part's right. So this step is right. So in this first step, they distributed it into the parentheses, and they did it correctly. So then let's look at the next step and how they go from here, this step to this step. Well, what's the same? It might help if I try to line up the equal sign a little bit. When I do that, I see the 3w is still the same, the minus 40 is still the same. But this part changed. The minus 4 stayed. It looks like the 6 came from somewhere, and it probably came from 10 minus 4, because if I have 10 w's and minus 4, I do get 6 w's. And remember, that is our second step, is to combine like terms if they're on the same side of the equal sign. And this 10w and 4w, they're both w terms. They're both on the left side of the equal sign. Now I'm going to go ahead and draw a line through the middle of the equal sign to signify the difference between the two sides. So on the left of the wall, the only w's are the 10 minus the 4, so those combine together, and the 6. This negative 4 is just a number, and on the left side, there's no just number for it to go with. On the right side, there is a 3w with no other w's on the right side of the wall of the equal sign. And there's a just number term, and it's the only one over here. So they have officially done that second step. Where they combine like terms if they were on the same side of the wall of the equal sign into the 16w. So the next step, it looks like that they did. So this 6 is no longer a 6, and the next one, it becomes a 3 somehow. The minus 4 stayed the same. This 3w is not here, but the minus 40 is. So something about this 3w and the 6. Well, to move over the equal sign or over the wall, To move anything straight over, you have to add or subtract it over. So to move it over here, this 3w is positive. So to get rid of it from the right side, I have to minus it away because 3 minus 3 will become 0. They'll cancel each other. And then that's why you're just left with the minus 40 over here. And then on this side, I have to minus the 3w's away from the other w's because I have to keep my terms together. And 6w minus 3w is 3w. So they did do that step right as well. Okay, so next, the difference between this step and this step. This has a 3w on the left, so does this one. This one has a minus 4 on the left, but this one does not, so they got rid of it. And in order to undo subtracting 4, you have to add it, because negative 4 plus 4 becomes 0, and they cancel. And then I have to add 4 here. Is negative 40 plus 4 negative 44? No, it's not. If you look here, if I had 40, clear. If I had 40 and it's negative, and then I add 4 to that, if I owe someone $40, but then I get 4, I'm going to only owe them 36. I'm not going to suddenly owe them 44. So this is wrong. So this is their mistake. So at this point, what you do on the test is I would write it all out, all of their work. I'd copy it down, and then I'd put a little star right here. And I'd say this step is wrong. And then I'd say because negative 40 plus 4 is negative 36, not negative 44. So then once you find the wrong step, you just have to finish out the math on your own to get the right answer. So what it should say is 3w equals negative 36. To get rid of the 3 times the w, we have to divide that 3 away. So they'll cancel. On this side, I also have to divide the 3 away to find out that w is going to equal negative 36 divided by 3 is negative 12. And by doing this, you'd be exceedings on this test. However, there are other ways to make this a whole lot harder. For example, I could put letters and symbols together with more than just one symbol or one letter. However, remember, the math is going to work the exact same way. So we don't have step 1, we don't have any parentheses to distribute into. None of these are like terms. This type of term, it's a TV term. This one's a P, and there happens to be negative 3 of them. There's only one TV right here. And then right here, there's one W. I could put the ones in there. I don't have to. It might get a little more confusing. But for this term, I will. And the next couple examples, I will. So I could ask you to solve for any of the letters on the board. In this case, it's saying solve for V. So we want to isolate V. We want to get it alone. I'm going to circle it here. This guy right here needs to be all alone on the left side. And everything else needs to be on the right side of the equal sign. So because there's no parentheses to multiply into, and because there's no like terms to combine, we're just going to start doing backwards order of operations. So remember, if I'm trying to get something alone, the first thing I get rid of is not what's being multiplied to it. Those are too closely connected. What you get rid of first is the thing that's getting added or subtracted to it because of backwards order of operations. Remember, order of operations can be remembered with this acronym called GEMS. G is for grouping. E is for exponents. M is for multiplying, but also for dividing. These multiplying and dividing are secretly the same thing. So you do whichever one comes first when you read it left to right. And S stands for subtraction, but also it means adding, because subtracting is just adding. They're the same thing. You just do whichever one comes first when you read it left to right. So this is the order of operations. It's better than if you learn PEMDAS. If you're confused about the order of operations, there is a note video in the warm-up skill about it. So to solve for a letter, remember you do backwards order of operations. So the first thing you look at is the S. Is there anything being added or subtracted to the variable I'm solving for? Yes. On the left-hand side of this equal sign, on the equal sign, on the left side of it, this V, it's getting a minus 3p term. So to undo the fact that you're subtracting 3p, you're going to want to add those 3p's. In order to make it go away on the left, because I don't want it to be here, I just want it to be V only. I need to add it to the right. All right, so I still have one TV over here. One TV. That went away, but it's going to equal what? So we still have one W, and we need to add the 3P, and we cannot combine them together because you cannot combine W's with P's. So it's just going to look weird. Next, I want to get V alone, and it's not alone right now. What is it connected to, and how is it connected to it? It's connected to this one T, and it's being multiplied to it. So to undo the fact that it's being multiplied to that T, we're going to divide that one T away. And I have to do it to both sides. So now the 1t's cancel, and I'm just left with V alone on this side like I wanted the whole time. And then with the numbers, remember I don't need them if they're ones, but it helps me because when I do the dividing, 1 divided by 1 is just 1 W. Plus 3 divided by the 1t, well, 3 divided by 1 is just still 3. And then it's still dividing by the t because I can't divide different letters. So I can't divide W with T or P with T. But now this is our final answer. And it would have looked the same if I never wrote the ones. But if you like the ones, they're there. The next one wants us, it's the exact same equation. But then this time, they want us to isolate the T. Get you all by yourself, just a T. So what's the first thing you're going to get rid of? The minus 3p, because adding and subtracting is the first thing you get rid of, because it's the weakest in order of operations. So those will cancel. So what do we have left on the left side? Just TV. And then now what will we have on the right side? W plus 3p, because we cannot combine them together. And what letter is it that I'm trying to isolate right now? T. What is with T currently, and how is it connected? T is getting multiplied to V on the left side right now. So to undo it, you need to do what? Got to divide that V away because they'll cancel on that side. I got to do it to the other side. So my final answer is that T equals what? W plus 3P, all getting divided by V because I couldn't combine anything together because they are not the same term. W's are not V's, are not P's, so they all stay separate and weird like this. But this is our final answer of what T equals. One more, we're going to solve this one for P. quickly, before I solve it, what is it currently solved for? It's currently solved for W because you see how it says equals W? It could have just been written over here, W equals. It doesn't matter what side it goes on, even if we're used to it on the left. So now we're going to rewrite it and solve it for P. What's my first step? So as weird as this is, remember you could always switch the order these are written in. And so if I wanted to, I could have typed this minus negative 3p first, as long as the minus comes in front with it. And then this TV is positive, plus TV. So that's totally fine. And now hopefully you see that the first thing you get rid of is the fact that we're adding TV to this term. Because this is the P term. It's connected to the 3, but it's still the P term. And it's getting added to the TV. So the first thing we want to do is subtract away the TV. So on the left, I still have negative 3p because that canceled. And then what do I have on the right? Can't combine W minus TV, so we just got to leave it. Finally, what's still with P on the left that we have to get rid of, and how is it connected? Negative 3 is getting connected through multiplication, so to undo it, we divide both sides by negative 3. On the left, negative 3 divided by negative 3 becomes 1, so that just cancels and becomes 1p equals. And if there were numbers in front, I could divide away that 3, but there's no numbers, so they're all different type of terms. So the answer is just W minus TV getting divided by negative 3.